and now my experience after changing my relationship to responsibility is now when I have more staff or more money coming to my business, I feel even more supported. So the experience is opposite. And so because I used to associate that, I was like, oh, I got more responsibility. So if we break down the word responsibility, it's response and ability. Ability to respond.
7 habits.
Yeah.
Happy Friday, Mike Bledsoe. Thank you so much for saying yes to the conversation that we're going to have today.
Thanks for having me.
How are you today?
I'm great. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Fridays is, I think Friday might be my favorite day of the whole week. Yeah. There's something about having accomplished so much work. And then I keep my meetings to a minimum on Fridays, unless it's like brainstorming creative. So it's like I get the last thing I do for the week is just creative stuff. And so podcasting is on that is a big creative piece that I like to do. And so this is perfect.
I love it. Thank you. I know Fridays for me are the only days I'm doing interviews because I love to say happy Friday. I've been saying happy Friday for a long time. In your exercise about pairing with somebody, and you said, just tell that person what you're noticing. So I noticed that the door is brown. I noticed that the carpet is old. And when we did that exercise, one of the person who was with me, she goes, I noticed that you're married because she saw my ring. And you're like, well, how do you know? Right. And so at first I was like, who does this guy think he is? Right. Like it brings like emotions, and it's like, oh, it's true. She just made an assumption. Right. And there are many people who can wear a ring and are not happily married or not married or whatever. Right. It's an assumption. And I don't know. Do you remember that went up to you after that?
Yeah, I actually remember the whole thing. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, like as you're telling this, I go, "Oh yeah, I remember confronting them about the ring. That's just what it means to you.
Right.
That's not universal. Right. The assumption that it is universal is the root problem with a lot of things that are happening in the world right now.
Yeah. Assumption. Yeah. And assuming. We know what that means. So.
That's right. There's a lot of assuming going on.
Exactly. Because what I walked away was that you say, I believe you should. And maybe, perhaps all this soft talk that I will use in my recommendation. And when you mention about, how about telling people, I noticed that, and my head exploded, Mike. I was like, one phrase, I noticed, or switching the one word from I believe to I notice was like a, what do we call it now? Mystical translation, or one word game. That was exactly what it did.
Yeah, it's super critical. One of the things, I'm a language geek. You've done and lifted, how powerful language is and how you can change one word and your entire world shifts with one word. Word and world are only one letter apart, right? So
yes. Wow, I love that.
Yeah. So what I'm playing around with right now is really looking at, after doing a lot of language work, really looking at the word belief and what the difference between believing something and knowing something. And there have been statements that I have made where people go, well, like, isn't that a belief? I'm like, no, I know that. It actually doesn't require any faith because I had the full-on experience. I've witnessed this. I have been with this. This has been my experience, and that is something that I know. Um, and usually, knowing is not something you would put into words. It's hard to put what you know into words,
Yeah.
but you can put your beliefs into words. And so, this is why changing around language is so cool, is because what you know is not, you can't change.
Yeah.
It's what you've had those experiences where you go, oh, wow, I can't unknow that. Right? Have you ever had that
Right.
experience? You go,
Yeah.
now that I know that, I can't unknow it.
Yeah.
But if you were to describe what it is that you now know that you can't unknow, can you put that into words? It's usually the thing that you can't put into words that you can't unknow.
Hmm.
Is that accurate for you?
Yeah, no, it's accurate. Well, what about learning and unlearning?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
most of the unlearning is what allows you to know. It's
Okay.
what you thought you knew. It's what
Yeah.
you thought you knew that was not a knowing, it was a belief. And if you allow your beliefs to cloud your knowing, that as you drop a belief
Mm.
that you didn't actually know, it was something that you inherited or took on for whatever reason, you believed it, but you
Yeah.
didn't know it, a belief
Yeah.
falls off, and then what can replace that is a knowing. Or sometimes the knowing just comes in so hard and so fast, and then you go, well, I don't believe that anymore. And so the knowing can happen first, or the drop of the belief can unravel the experience of the new knowing. And then there's these like moments of knowing, and then there's being able to stabilize that knowing. And
What do you mean
that
by stabilize the knowing?
have you ever had the experience where you go, oh my God, I know what this is. I know who I am. I know what I'm supposed to be doing in the world. I know who I am, and yeah. And then a month goes by and you forgot,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? You
Yeah.
have moments of forgetting.
Yes.
And so to me, the work is stabilizing the knowing
Hmm.
and finding what beliefs are getting in the way of what I know.
Hmm.
And those beliefs are phrases, and
Right.
they're actual phrases that aren't your words. They're not
Wow.
your thoughts. You inherited those thoughts from your mom, from your dad, from teachers, from the television, from the
Mhm.
Instagrams. If you sit with a thought and you become curious enough in meditation about a single thought, what you may find is somebody else's voice in there, and it's not yours.
Yeah. Wow. Have you read It Didn't Start With You?
No.
Oh, it's exactly what you're mentioning.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's a really great book.
Yeah. The name of the book, yeah, tells me a
Yeah,
lot. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And so I love how you said meditating on those thoughts, right? We don't stop. We just keep saying things. There's a lot out from the book. It didn't start with you. There are certain phrases that we say, and he walks you through how to get there. That, like you said, it could have been inherited, and those become your beliefs. So thank you for saying meditating, because we have to stop, right? To reflect on what we're saying, and what we're feeding ourselves.
Yeah.
So
The other thing is, if you pay attention or close enough attention to language, it's full of
mhm,
metaphor.
mhm,
So one would be like time is money,
mhm.
right?
No pain, no gain.
But yeah, but like time is money. I think that's one that everyone understands.
Yeah.
And time is not money, and money is not time, but we talk about them very similarly. So
Mm,
whereas time, you spend time, invest time, lose time, like you would lose money. So for the Western mind, where this is a common metaphor, we end up treating time as if it is a limited resource.
wow.
And that's not incorrect, but because we have this metaphor, um, it is ingrained into our culture that it's go, 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 and dollars for hours for dollars,
Wow.
and all of that. And you don't necessarily see that in other countries. And so what I'm not saying it's good or a bad thing. What I'm pointing out is the power of metaphor, the power of language. The
Mhm.
time is money is a belief
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
is easy to not, people normally think about beliefs as something that's like much bigger, but they're tiny little ones floating around and they're all the time. And that being one of them, that actually creates a mentality of uh, someone, that mentality will lead to a lot of struggle to build wealth.
Mm.
Because if that story, if that belief is running around in the background, it's going to keep you from making investments that give you a return without you having to invest time.
Wow. I like that. Yeah, I mean, I do in the field of Department of Education and nonprofit that I'm involved with. You do hear that it's go go go. It's or the phrase. It's just crazy. I literally got a text today with crazy in caps. I left someone a message about a program that I want to start, and that was the answer. She listed all the things, and then it was like it's crazy. Like maybe that's another saying, right? Like if you will, what is that Henry Ford's quote? Whether you can or can't, you are right.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, and so she's already saying it's crazy. So guess what? It's gonna
It's
be
going to be
crazy.
crazy.
It's gonna be really crazy.
Right. People are like, oh, 2020 is the worst year ever. And I'm like, if you say so, like,
Exactly.
it's been
Yeah.
my best year.
Yes, it has. It
And
has.
I've heard people say, don't say that too loud. I'm like, you know what?
No, say it. Say it
Let these
louder.
people be triggered, because here's the thing. The reason it's such a good year is not it. It's a combination of many things,
Mhm.
but the main thing it was my mentality, how I approach change
Mhm.
when things shift that are totally outside my control.
Mhm.
Um, what I did that was different than other people is I started assuming, this is one of my little mental tricks that I play, is I assume that this is how it's going to be forever.
Mm.
I go, oh, lockdown's forever now. Okay, if lockdown's forever, because what did they say? They said 2 weeks. It's gonna, if everyone
Yeah.
stays inside and wears a mask, in two
Right.
weeks the lockdown will be over because we will flatten the curve.
Right.
What are we at, like 7 months now? So uh I know that, especially if the information's come from the government, that it's dishonest. And so there are levels of honesty in which different people, I trust different people and different organizations differently.
Yes.
But if my business partners say it's going to be a week, I go, okay, it might be, 2 weeks, but but they're going to do their best to make it a week. And then there's certain people in organizations where if they say something, I go, well, this is just forever now. And
Mm.
so what I do is, so what I look at, and this, I apply this to physical pain too. If I'm in physical pain, what I'm doing is I'm getting into a level of acceptance of what do I do in this situation? Because what I noticed is that people, you probably heard this a lot. I heard it a lot, which was, I can't wait for this thing to be over so I can get back to the way it was. Or I'm just waiting until this is over to make a decision, or all this stuff. And I'm going, oh,
Right.
this is the difference between me. And when people look at me, they might get mad. They're like, but he's doing so well. This was good for him. It's like, it was good for everybody
Right.
if they believed it was good for them.
Yeah.
If they believed it was this was going to be the beginning of the worst year ever, guess what? It's going to be your worst year ever.
Yep.
And so I was set up really well because I have that mentality. I go, okay, this is how it's going to be forever. It didn't cause depression, maybe a little bit. I was like, oh, that would suck. But I go, okay, if this is how it's going to be for the next year, what do I need to do in my business? What do I need to do in my life? Where do I want to be? And what I do is I found a spot that I wanted to spend a lot of time in. I go, okay, if I'm going to be in one spot for a long time, oh, I'm going to go to the mountains. So I went to the mountains. I let my lease run up on my house.
Yeah.
And I went to the mountains, and I lived there for a while. in Utah. And I focused on my business and I started shifting. I have two main businesses. I started shifting them both to succeed with COVID-19 being like the worst thing that ever happened to humanity is what I
Yeah.
did. And it worked out. And a lot of other people and people who could be clients are like, well, I'm waiting until this is over. I'm going, that is the exact mentality on why you need coaching. This is why you need someone to help you out, is because that's your go-to move is wait till someone else gives me permission. I'm going to
Mm,
wait for the authority to tell me what to do, and then I'll take action.
yeah.
If that's all you ever do, you'll be a nice little worker bee in the system. But if you want to have freedom, then you have to learn how to give yourself permission and authority. And here's the thing is I'm very, very fortunate because I didn't have to like work hard to get into that mentality this year. What I did was I had been practicing that for over a decade.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy to get into that mindset in the beginning. I've got numerous repetitions. I did things that other people considered risky when everything was very calm and easy and the markets were going great
Mhm.
and there was peace and all this stuff. And so when the hard stuff came, I was like, oh, I've been practicing for crazy stuff my whole life. This is great. So, but if you're somebody who has always been cautious
Mm.
all the time, so when that chaos hits, you're just like, oh, it's a learnable skill. And that's one thing I really want people to understand is my ability to do well in chaos is something that I learned. It's not who I am.
Right. Right. And you said level of acceptance. And it's like, I see that like as adapting, right? like I told you earlier, I'm from Peru. I moved to the States when I was 11. And I went and met, I don't know if I said this before the live, but 4 different high schools. As of 2008, I was in 20 homes. And
Oh wow.
every change allowed me to grow. So yes, I've been full-time entrepreneur in the past 3 years, but self-development started way before. I'm sure you know Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
And so, but just every change allowed me to get more creative, to
Yeah.
adapt, right? First to the language. I didn't know English. Like I knew words and things like that. I took some classes in Peru, but just adapting has helped me. And it comes from first accepting your current situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that you said that too. Mike, I wanted just to say just one thing that I do admire about you and why we even like I connected with you on Instagram right away was one of the things, and I believe it has to do with the conversation that we already started when it comes to self responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
That is a topic that I spent too many years complaining for Department of Education and nonprofit organizations that, and I will say is that they didn't respect my boundaries. And the truth is that I wasn't placing my boundaries. So can you talk a little bit? I mean, just about, I believe did you say radical self responsibility? Is that the word that you use?
I might have, or radical personal responsibility. I
Mhm.
usually use the word personal instead of self.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but
Why is that?
I think it sounds better. I
Oh, okay.
don't. I don't think it. Yeah, I don't think it matters. Yeah, radical personal responsibility. Here's the thing: is I think a lot of times people think about personal responsibility or self responsibility as being responsible for yourself, like you're self sufficient or I'm independent. So
Mhm.
whatever. And yet that person is still expecting other people to change whatever situation they're in on different levels. So at a small level, we can start with the self. So most people think about personal responsibility or self responsibility of like, yeah, I can take care of me. I
Mm,
cook my own dinner. I can take my car to the shop and like,
Right.
whatever,
Treat
you know,
yourself like Parks and Rec.
I got a job. So, but then, and then there's, well, like you were starting to do it. You're breaking down the word responsibility. I think people hear responsibility, and I used to associate that word with burden because I heard responsibility. I was the oldest of five. I felt like I was responsible for my younger siblings, and I found this to be true with a lot of clients I've coached, where the word responsibility, if they really tune in and meditate on that word, what they find is that there's a feeling of burden, and the word responsibility is heavy.
I
And if
yes.
yes, so if the word responsibility is heavy, if you're practicing responsibility, then you're going to experience responsibility as a heavy experience, and it's not going to be joy, and it's going to drain you of your energy. And so I used to run a company, and I was a CEO, and we were making, it seemed like the more money we made and the more staff I had, my experience of it was more and more stress and energy. I was getting smoked. I just, yeah, my ex-wife was worried about me when we were married. Like, she was like, you are just burning it at both ends. And it seemed like every staff member that I added or more money we made, it caused more stress. And this is common. And now my experience after changing my relationship to responsibility is now when I have more staff or more money coming to my business, I feel even more supported. So the experience is opposite. And so because I used to associate that, I was like, oh, I got more responsibility. So if we break down the word responsibility, it's response and ability. Ability to respond.
7 habits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a choice, right?
Yep.
And are you complaining about something that you have the ability and to do something about it? So you're talking about the school system, right? How many people point up into the school system and they look at people in charge and they go, you need to change this.
Right. Or the administration.
The administrator, it's their fault, right? And then it's like, yeah, but what can you do?
Right.
And complaining to someone or filling out a form and submitting it, that's not doing something about it.
Right.
Because no matter how many forms get submitted or money is spent or whatever, somebody still has to do the thing.
Yeah.
And you're waiting for someone else to do it.
Right.
So that means that you have not taken responsibility for that area. And when you complain about an area in which you have the ability to have responsibility, you have then placed yourself as the victim.
Yes.
And so many people, like I've been working on victim language and victim mentality for a long time. And I still find myself blaming others at some points. I'm just like, oh shit, I fell into the trap of victim mentality. So
yes.
So there's different levels of this. Is we can look at the whole planet and say, what can I do to reduce pollution? Okay, right. I'm gonna separate my compost from my recyclables to my real trash. And then also when I go to the store, I'm going to reduce my plastic. Right. I'm going to do all that. I have the ability to respond environmentally to the degree in which I am contributing on this planet. Right. And so I personally am taking further steps in that right now. Like I'm getting into regenerative farming, and because I see that I have the ability to do that. And I am choosing to be responsible for that because what right do I have to complain about the problem if I'm not doing what I can do to solve it? And we got to choose our battles. You know, you can't just go like, oh, there's 100 problems in the world, I'm going to do something. No, you got to choose the one that you can do, make the biggest difference, and put your attention there. So but here's the thing is, if you're not doing something about it, I don't want to hear anyone complain about it. You got to shut your mouth and keep focused. Now you want to have a discussion about it and be a part of a solution. I mean, I saw this happen a lot on Facebook in the last week is people complaining about things. I'm like, well, what do you think should be done?
Right.
what specifically, I want to hear specifically about the change. And almost everybody that had complaints had zero solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, this is what's wrong with the world. It's not about who's president. The president isn't the problem,
Right.
because the president is not in charge. The
Right.
president holds very little power,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right? He doesn't run the world.
Right.
The teachers run the world, the doctors, the construction,
Yeah.
the people who take out the trash. That's who runs the world. And what are they doing? Just doing what they're told.
Mm.
They're just doing what they're told.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem, is they're waiting for somebody else from the top.
Right.
There's an illusion that we have to have permission from somebody else to take the action, to take responsibility.
Yeah.
We think that someone else is responsible for this.
Right.
That's the illusion. If that's the life you're living in, you're going to be miserable. It's not going to be fun. And we get to take responsibility. And so, are you taking responsibility for your own health, your own body? Are you taking responsibility for your own mind, the quality of your mind, the quality of your body? Are you responsible for the quality of your home? Are you responsible for your family? Are you able to provide for them? What is the quality of their experience of you?
Right.
How are you showing up for them? How are you showing up in your career? How are you showing up online? How are you showing up for your community?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And we just had an election, and I was really saddened by how much weight and how much passion was put into people filling out a piece of paper to vote for a president or whatever. And those same exact people put almost no passion behind the things they can actually change. And those are the same people who just do what they're told and wait for permission. And the only thing they can do is beg for the authority to tell them to do it different. That's what voting is. And so, and that's okay. Yes. But let's put that same passion behind whatever it is that you actually have the ability to respond to, that you have responsibility for. And so what made me sad was that, like people think they're doing more by casting a vote than they really are. They're making it more important than it really is.
Right.
And choose the person you think is going to do the best job. You should do that. But when you're out there, picking fights with people and trying to make a difference, don't make it about who they're voting for. Yeah. Make it about what you're doing in the world and how things can be better.
Yes. Yes. And as a youth developer, we don't believe the children are the future. You're the future. You listening right now, us, you, Mike, and I, we're the future, and we put so much pressure, right, on the youth. I can't even think about 16 years old having this pressure. What are you going to do for the rest of your life when you go to college? That is so poisonous to put that amount of pressure. It is. It's
crazy.
Because it's about, when you were saying what's the response, I call it like, what's your contribution to the world, right? Like uniquely to you, that it was given to you, because we're all created absolutely differently and uniquely. I love that, Mike. And I love that you quoted from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I love that book. And one thing you also mentioned with it is that when we don't respond, or we don't choose to respond, it's either we're going to be reactive to things, or when we choose that, we it's like habit number 1, be proactive, right? And so instead of complaining, so what can I contribute? So thank you for saying that. We're gonna start. Actually, this Tuesday, I'm starting an entrepreneurship class for middle schoolers. It's gonna be 15 sessions, and I'm sharing this video because it's about what they're going to do. So we're gonna I'll share it with you too, like and keep it posted, just the whole curriculum. And I want to reach out to people who are influencers, and you've had 6 to 7 figure businesses. You've been coaching for a really long time. And this is when, the way I see that, when you told me you were focusing on leadership, it does start with responsibility, right? Like it
absolutely
starts with that. and that is like a foundation, because what are entrepreneurs? We solve problems. That's what
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate your time, Mike. It really means a lot to me, so I really truly appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. This has been great.
Yes, absolutely. We can do it again. All right, thank you, Mike.
All right.